right. Hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are celebrating National Distance Learning Week, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers to you today, some colleagues past and present for me. So it's always fun to get this group together. Today's presentation will be moderated by Chuck Spuches. Chuck is our Provost Fellow from SUNY Online. And our panelists include Ryan McCabe, the Associate Vice President of Academic Technology and High Impact Practices at Finger Lakes Community College, Danyelle O'Brien, Director of Online Learning at Alfred State College, and Terry Keys, the Associate Vice President for Instructional Services at Monroe Community College. So I really appreciate you all being with us today to talk about program design at scale and your experiences in that journey. So I'm going to turn this over to Chuck, and here are some of our questions.
Well, thank you, Erin, and thanks for all you do to make these things happen and so smoothly as well. Thanks for all that. First, let me say to all of our colleagues who are with us, most of you have your cameras off, and that's perfectly fine. Feel free to turn them on at any time, and feel free to jump in at any time, okay? Don't be polite. This is a conversation between friends and colleagues. We're here to help you, help ourselves, think through, think back and think ahead to the challenges and the opportunities inherent in thinking about and working on program design at scale. So please feel free anytime. Use the chat or jump right in, if you would, please. The notion about today is to focus on program design attributes for programs at scale, various models, program attributes, characteristics, and the direction of SUNY Online overall over these past several years. We've asked some usual suspects, because they've worked hard on this and they are successful at it, to share, their reflections and ultimately their approaches to program design at scale. And within the questions that Erin and we have framed, to really think about what's in it for students, what's in it for the institution, and so on and so forth. I'm joined by an old friend, Dave Rogers. Greetings, Dave. Greetings, everyone who's joined us. Good to see you. As a campus president, you know well the challenges that you encounter every day and that others do with regard to enrollment, with fierce competition in the marketplace. And if you look at New York State and the Northeast, we are not growing in population as fast as, say, the Southwest and so forth. When we began this, and I'll define the beginning when I joined, right? When I joined the SUNY system administration team and the SUNY Online initiative, is April and May of 2019. SARA data, NC SARA data suggested, and you're all familiar with that, I'm sure, suggested that New York State was losing about 50,000, in round numbers, 50,000 people who were taking online education programs of a variety of sorts to out-of-state providers. The more recent data suggests that it's into the 80,000s. Now, everything is turned upside down because of the upheaval of the pandemic and so forth. But we had a webinar yesterday in which we had a frank conversation about the different perspectives, faculty, administration, and so on and so forth. And so ultimately, let's be clear, when we talk about programs at scale, we are not talking about shortchanging or giving short shrift to anything that we are committed to as educators and as leaders on our various campuses. The operating principles behind all of this have to do with scalability. We have purposely selected and will continue to select for programs that we believe can be competitive in the marketplace, represent distinct positive attributes and capacity and capability of the campuses and SUNY, and have that ability to grow. We're not talking about 50, we're maybe talking about 500, in some cases 1,000, and that it's sustainable. So this is what Danyelle and Ryan and Terry are going to talk to us about. Is it's one thing to recruit a lot of students. but it's another thing to get them, to serve them well with integrity, coherence, continuity, and make it possible for our institutions, even beyond and with SUNY Online Degrees at Scale help to sustain that level of service. And all the while adhering to things that are our mantras, right? Meaningful and substantive interaction among and between students and faculty. So that's what it's about. It's not about cutting corners. It's about opportunities that go above and beyond what we normally would have. So thanks to Danyelle, thanks to Ryan, thanks to Terry, and thanks to all of you for joining us. I want to begin by opening this up to Danyelle, Terry, and Ryan. And a reminder to those of you who joined us, jump in anytime, right? We're among friends and colleagues. We're here for one another. Jump in anytime, use the chat or speak up. Please feel free. But I want to pose the first question to Danyelle, Terry, and that is, go back to, and let's say spring, right, of 2019, when we first started engaging you and others in conversations about programs at scale and program design. What were some of your initial understandings, drivers, motivations, expectations, and maybe trepidations? What was your vision going into this? How were you thinking about it? Please, Terry.
Well, I'll start that when you came to us and said, who is interested in having a degree at scale? And we said, what's a degree at scale? And you said 1,000 students. I'm in. Okay, we're all struggling with enrollments and things like that at this time. And that was a major question of, we don't know what it's going to take. We don't know what it'll look like, but generally we say, yes, we're in, and we'll try to figure it out. It has been a fun ride, and I think we've learned a lot, which we'll talk about here. But the very first part was, I say we're in because we've had a pretty strong online learning program for a long time. It was really trying to figure out what's this going to look like at scale. So the obvious questions were, what happens if we build it and they come? Can we actually accommodate 1,000 students going through a degree program? How do you handle the number of sections? How do you handle the number? How do you find enough faculty members in a time when many of us have dwindling enrollments and are holding positions? And I mean, we were fortunate. We have 3 degrees that were chosen initially: psychology, business administration, accounting, and math. And each was in a slightly different place, but all 3 were fully online. But we had some really serious conversations with the chairs, because if we build it and they come, well, we're not going to fund it until we build it and they do come. So how are we going to make all of this work? So I know we'll talk about more of that as we go on, but that was our initial question: is what happens and how long will it get to scale? What's it going to look like? Because we were the piloteers, we had no idea what anything would look like, what the systems would look like, and so on. And I think probably the most, I think we're probably getting into another question, but our vision was really, how can these degrees be offered to new populations in a quality way and ensure that they maintain quality throughout time? And who do we have to bring to the table? Because while we do include everybody or institution in different areas, this was a great opportunity to bring everybody together and talk about this from a fresh and new perspective. So I'll be quiet for a second, but you said 1,000, we said, good, 3,000, even better. We're still working on that, but we'll see.
Yes, one of our friends, we have a mantra, as those of us who work together day in and day out on this, is what happens if we're successful, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so there's a lot more to this than just the design of the academic program. There's data integration, right. There's marketing, there's success, student recruitment and onboarding, and success coaching. Right. Plenty more to talk about beyond today. But just so you know, the weight of all this success isn't just on courses and programs, right. Which is a lot of it. That's the purpose of the exercise. But there's a lot more beyond. Yep. Right, Terry?
Yep. And I would say we were naive a little bit in that what actually had to be accomplished. Yes. And we'll talk more about that as we go on.
Yep. Ryan?
Yeah, I would echo Terry's comments related to enrollment. Obviously, we're all struggling in various ways and to various degrees, and the idea of having a significant number of students in some of our programs sounded awesome, but the primary driver at FLCC, I think, was more along the lines of, we think we have programs that are really good. And we think we have faculty who are really good. And we think we can do this in a really strong way. What we don't have is the marketing might and the ability to spend the kind of marketing money that is required to draw in students from outside of our region in a really strong way. And what SUNY Online has brought to the table with this is that ability to market our programs and help us market them. One of our programs is engineering. And I say this is a strong program in the sense that it's difficult to find an online engineering program in general. Our main faculty in this program, are the coordinator, used to work for NASA. I mean, this is a guy who's very accomplished, and getting that out to a wider group of students, I think, is just so important because it is an in-demand field. There is money to be made there. There's great opportunity, and the program was really struggling. We're talking about a program that in the next few years could have been one that may have been on the chopping block as far as staying as a registered program at our institution. And what SUNY Online has done through the marketing and getting that information out there is, I think we tripled the size of the program from the spring to this fall. And if, it's not a huge jump because I think we had 10 or 12 students and now we're up to just under 40. And I wouldn't expect this will ever be a program that has 1,000 students because engineering is hard, right? I mean, the initial math course in our engineering program is Calc 1. So you have to test into Calc 1 to really get this started and be on that path to a 4-semester graduation. So I think that, our initial drivers were, how can we support some of our lower enrolled programs? How can we get some of the great work that we're doing here out to a wider audience? And at FLCC, we've taken some chances with things like engineering, things like doing physics online. We're really strong in the STEM area online. And so how can we get more people to experience that and experience all of the goodness that FLCC has to offer? And this was just a great path towards that and has been a really valuable partnership, I think, and hopefully will continue to be.
Thank you, Ryan. The chair of your engineering science program was with us yesterday for a faculty forum webinar and brought a lot of insight and background to a fairly large group of people. So it was very valuable. Thanks. Danyelle?
Sure, thank you. And thank you all for having us here today. We at Alfred, I think, echo the same that Terry and Ryan had said. We were looking at enrollment to make sure that we were maintaining good enrollment, but we also felt like we had some quality programs that we wanted to get out there. Our healthcare management degree completion was our first program that we launched with SUNY Online in partnership, and healthcare was just starting to kind of be the hot thing with, we didn't know that it was going to be with COVID coming. So that was something that we knew healthcare, there was a need for, especially online, and folks who had been in the healthcare industry that were really looking to take that next step into a leadership position. A lot of them needed that bachelor's level degree. So, having that marketing power like that Ryan was talking about behind our program was really, really helpful to get it off the ground. And then our second program that we launched this fall was individual studies, which is kind of the build your own degree program, right? Or our target market here really was students who had some college credit from somewhere that wanted to earn an associate's degree and then hopefully continue on a path to another SUNY institution, right? So we want to really capture the students who are in that non-traditional age group, right? We're really not looking for the 18-year-old at this point. We're looking for those students in their 30s and 40s and 50s who are looking to put their degree together and hopefully take that next step. So I think for us at Alfred, we wanted to be in on the ground floor because we wanted to help make some of these decisions at the SUNY level, at the system level. We knew that being an initial partner was going to give us some opportunity to have some say in how everything was done. But then we also really wanted to make sure that quality wasn't lost. And across SUNY, we have awesome quality in our online programs, but like Terry kind of spoke to quality programs too, we wanted to make sure that SUNY Online, that we were being part of something where quality was being upheld and that it wasn't a quick, finish or a Band-Aid, throw something together, right? So we got to help create some of that framework, which was really exciting.
Very good. Thanks, Danyelle. Let's move on to the next one. And Danyelle, let me ask you to begin. So fast forward to today. What is obvious to the casual observer about your program and its component courses that's different today? And if we were to look under the hood, what isn't so obvious about what's different today about your program and its design and management and delivery than it was, say, 2.5 to 3 years ago?
Absolutely. So I'm actually going to focus on the under the hood part, right? Because we're super proud of the work that we've done in planning. So we have created a 5-year plan for our courses. We have them all mapped out. So when our students come and have their initial advising appointment at Alfred State for our SUNY Online programs, they have their entire plan. If they want to be full-time, if they want to be part-time, if there's elective courses that they want to choose, that is all mapped out at advising appointment 1. And they know when they're going to be able to complete their degree. Now, life happens and things change, right? So we understand that plan changes too, but our students have really, really loved the opportunity to be able to see all their courses mapped out. They have that end goal in sight. They know whether they want to take summer and winter courses, and they know what they're going to be taking when. So if they're taking something that is really, really difficult, like one of our accounting courses, tends to take a lot more thinking time, right? They need to sit down and do the work in a different way than they do in some of our other courses. So they can plan for life to be ready for that when they're taking it. So that has been really awesome. And then we actually have taken those plans and create reports now that our department chairs can use for enrollment. So we now have enrollment projections for years out, which is something that we have never done as an institution. So we kind of have proof of concept now that with great professional advisors, we can have enrollment projections, and it's been something that's been well received at the institution. So that's something that we think is pretty cool. And really SUNY Online is what forced us to do that.
Do you want to say anything about terms or anything, or come back to it?
Sure. We also use part of term. So we have 7-week courses during the regular semester, and then 3 and 4 in winter and summer. That has been really well received as well by our non-traditional students, right? Usually we can control what happens in life for 7 weeks and make it through that course, even if something happens and they need to be able to drop or stop out for a term. So the flexible scheduling has been really great, and it allows us to onboard more frequently. So it's not just a fall or a spring start. We have 3 starts in the summer and a winter start as well. So.
Ryan?
Yeah, so just to piggyback on that a little bit, specifically related to scheduling, SUNY Degrees at Scale is looking for us to have basically 5 start dates, which is a different model than traditionally we've had at FLCC. And so, thinking about that and the scheduling that goes along with that, that moves you towards that 7.5 or 8 week kind of scheduling. And as an institution, SUNY, in the conversations with SUNY and articles and presentations we've had from EAB, we've kind of had this conversation simmering in the background for quite some time. And recently our president put together what he called future forward groups. And I was on one of those groups. And what we proposed as an institution was to move to a 7.5-week model for all of our courses and programs, with a target of, probably 2025 is what's reasonable, which would be a significant change, right? What we recognize, however, is that, as Danyelle said, if a student falls off or wants to get on, it makes it a lot easier if they don't have to wait 10, 12, 13 weeks to do so. It's a more of an adult-friendly view. With the Degrees at Scale project, our average student is age 35. And with our traditional population, before we got into this, our average student age was 24. So it's a completely different group of students. And so I think that a lot of times we can take the lessons that we learn from adult learners and what they need. And a lot of times they fit pretty well, specifically at a community college, with the needs of what we would call traditional age learners. 70% of our traditional age learners are working full time. We did an intake survey this year. That is not traditional in the sense of what we probably all think of as traditional when we went to school, where we lived in the dorm and maybe worked 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week. There's been a significant shift in the way that students attend college, no matter what their age is. So I think that it's really important to note that SUNY Online has pushed us in good ways, sometimes bad ways. I'm not going to give you all the credit, Chuck, but mostly good ways, in the sense that it's making us think about how we do things, why we do them, not only program design, but institutional structural design, and what makes the most sense moving forward, and are the old models the way that we should continue to do things, or are there innovations that need to happen to adjust to not only a changing demographic, declining high school population, but also this giant pandemic that happened, right? Do we have a new normal that we need to adjust to that maybe SUNY Online and some of the thinking will help us get there?
And Ryan, just let me, if I may, underscore something you said about new enrollment and the different, somewhat different, at least, profile of your students for SUNY Online Degrees at Scale programs. The purpose of this exercise was not to move on-campus people to online. That's probably obvious to everyone, but important nevertheless, that we really sought new and enduring enrollment to complement what was going on in your, I'll call it campus-based online and on-campus programs. Terry?
I think that's a key point, actually, and that's it's been actually welcome and surprising for some of our faculty too, because this is truly a new population. Many of our students are actually coming from downstate, from New York City area, and they're different students, and they have different backgrounds and expectations. And I think that's been interesting as well. I'll give a big shout out to the coaching model, which is a huge partnership with us with SUNY, which has really supported these students as well. I guess I'll third and second what Danyelle and Ryan have said, especially part about pushing us to try new things. We're a little farther behind. I would say behind. We're not as far along. That's the right way to say it. In the multiple starts, adding additional starts. And it's something we need to think about and look at, and it's good to see what other campuses are doing and what works for them. I think our population at community college is a little bit different, and the coaches is where they also help a lot. The students do bring a lot with them, or do have some significant needs. So we have a lot of our students starting in a lot of different places, which makes it a little harder to map out their next 4 semesters easily, because they do fall off a little bit or come back on. But I think that's been great for us. And I think the fact that there's a new population is wonderful. At MCC, one of the ways we tried to address the idea of scaling was the development of template courses or a master course model. And we did that early on because we, as I said in my intro, we were somewhat concerned. What happens if we build it and we have 1,000 students next semester and the chairs are saying, oh my God, how will I find the faculty, and how will I make sure they're trained, and how will I make sure they all have quality courses? So we've been doing online learning since the mid-90s. We've gone through the course creator wizard, which kept them all consistent. We've gone to Angel, where we tried to keep them consistent, went to Blackboard, where it was the wild, wild west. And now we hope actually with Brightspace, we're going to be learning some lessons actually specifically from what we've done with SUNY Online to bring them back into a little more consistent place for our students. But I think having that expectation built in that we're going to be working on a different LMS at this time is going to have more structure and some more restrictions, which we've been balancing and sometimes pushing and pulling and fighting about what those restrictions are. It helped us adopt, again, what we call the template course model, and where we, from the first summer, so just to remember, I think we were given the nod to say yes, was it like May, and we wanted courses live the following fall. So we've actually worked with our faculty members to actually do a work for hire that allowed them to create a template course that was easily transferable to anybody else. And we had a structure for that. We hired faculty that actually had already developed their courses. We evaluated what level those courses were at, whether they just needed to really be ported over to the new environment, whether they needed some more substantive work or a lot of work. The more substantive work was they've gone through the OSCR rubric. I mean, we built the OSCR rubric into this model so that in the end, we ended up with a course that was, I don't use the words, was sanitized enough so it isn't Professor Keys saying, hi, welcome to my class in the intro, and this is all about me. So someone else could pick it up quickly. And then one of the key features of these courses is we had the developers build a hidden folder in there with instructions for whoever adopts this course, telling them, here's the places you need to definitely change some things, here's some ideas. And we didn't say that everybody has to teach with these courses, because we have veteran faculty members who have been doing this a long time and they have very good solid courses they want to teach from. But what we did is to help us prepare if we had to bring someone on 3 weeks before classes. So I've taught as an adjunct. I've been fortunate to be in a department where when that did happen, someone said, here's my course, start with this. And that's very prevalent. I mean, I think we're past the place where a lot of people feel that this is my course, I'll never share it, I'll make lots of money off of it. So we built this model, and I think it has helped us. It'll serve us well for SUNY Online, but I think everything we learn with SUNY Online also benefits our campus. So as many of us know, a migration is coming soon to a new LMS. We hope that this foundation will help migrating more of the courses and doing it in a more consistent way. And we also hope that the lessons we've learned from the SUNY Online LMS will come back to what we do when we build our campus Brightspace with a more consistent starting place, and every student knows where to go to find the syllabus or find the library or find the help, as opposed to every course being different. So I think that model helped us a lot. We still have questions. We have sustainability. We have updates. We have things like that that have to happen. But it did enable the departments to be ready as enrollments increase. So I think that's important. That's the important part for us.
That's a part of it too, is allowing people, faculty, staff, others, to see that there's a way to do it, right?
Yep,
you have to be able to envision it first and say, okay, if they come, here's how we will be ready. And here are the things that we have done, are doing, and will do. So an old adage in marketing that I picked up one of those, you sell benefits, not features, right? And the 3 of you have already sort of, hinted at the benefits inherent in this, but let's, and you use the word specifically, Terry, let's talk about benefits, and let's triangulate, if you will, from students to faculty and staff who deliver and support your programs to the institution.
Right.
So Ryan talked about enrollment, and it's about enrollment, right? I mean, let's face it, but it's beyond that. It's about changing lives. It's about helping people fulfill their academic and their career aspirations. It matters to them, to their families, to our communities, and so forth. Terry, you've had a program that's grown a fair amount. I'm thinking of your psychology program specifically. Ryan spoke to one of his. We have a program in accounting that was a healthy program. That's why it was selected. It had 100 online students, fully online students. It's now over 300. but we're not there yet. So there are benefits in the institution. Would you speak to that? And Danyelle, do you want to go back? I mean, you've already alluded to it, or any one of you speak to what are the benefits now that you've done all of that? What are the benefits? Start anywhere you want.
Well, I'll just mention.
Oh, please.
One thing we mentioned before a lot was bringing people together. So we've had 3 years of conversation. Well, we joke Wednesday mornings. Every other Wednesday morning, we get to meet with our fine SUNY peers to talk about what's working, what isn't, move on. And then every opposite Wednesday morning, because we're crazy, we have the same group of MCC plus all of our department chairs are invited to talk about what's going on. So, and this includes our technology people, our marketing people, our student services people. It's a pretty large table, but and that table didn't always come together pre-SUNY Online. It occasionally did, but now we're talking about things that will translate to all of our other programs. So as an institutional benefit, we're also learning things. So we learn about the coaching model, we learn about different marketing and how to attract new populations. So I think that is a very tangible benefit as we figure out things too. We're trying things. How do we connect with SUNY system, and how do we use the SUNY campus code in Banner? Well, we learned some things about how we use Banner that may be right, or we could probably improve upon as we try to do these integrations. So I think that's one thing that has helped us is ongoing regular communication from deans, chairs, technology, everybody all at the table on a regular basis.
One of the things we know that's true in education, time on task, right? So when Terry's talking about those campus coordination meetings, your meeting this morning, Terry, at 9 o'clock, that standing meeting, I think there were 25 people at the table. when everyone is able to participate, that's a concerted effort, right? And you're suggesting that it has institutional impact and benefit, and that ripples beyond, well beyond.
Yep.
Ryan?
Yeah, and I would agree with what Terry said. I think that, you know, even though we're a relatively small community college, we still silo pretty well. And this project, because it involves enrollment management, it involves IT, it involves advising, it involves academics, has really done a solid job of breaking down some of those barriers and making us all work a little bit more closely together around this specific topic, but it also opens up those avenues of communication in other ways. One thing that I really want to point out for benefits for students, you know, so some of the programs that we have, they're part of SUNY Online, have been programs that FLCC has had online for quite some time. And when a student, you know, our students also primarily come from downstate, as Terry mentioned. When a student goes to Google and types in and looks for a degree, FLCC was never going to come up near the top of that list because we just don't have the money to do it. And that's a disadvantage to students because students are then going and they're going to Southern New Hampshire, they're going to Western Governors, they're going to Phoenix, they're going to Walden, and they're spending more money. It costs them more to go out of state and take those degrees than it does if they stay in state. And so by being part of this consortium and group of folks that are working towards this, I think that it's a great advantage to citizens of New York in that they are spending less on their education, still getting, you know, a great value, and working with faculty who are just incredibly trained and ready to help them and assist them. And we have all of the appropriate services to help these students be successful. And, you know, it doesn't matter what number of students we get to, whatever we decide is scale at FLCC, and I'm sure at MCC and Alfred as well. You know, we care about the individual student. This is not the University of Phoenix where 70% of their money is spent on acquiring a student. We spend 75% of our money on instruction and on ensuring that that student has a good experience. And so to me, that is a huge benefit to the citizenry of New York State and to the individual students who choose to participate in these programs.
I don't know how anyone can follow that, like, right? Providing a service to all of New York State citizens. So thanks, Ryan. No, but it's true, right? I think, you know, as institutions, as SUNY institutions, we want to see our fellow New Yorkers having access. And that's been a SUNY initiative for a really, really, really long time, but it's still been regional access. And by all of us working together as institutions, as partners, we are opening up that access. And then having SUNY system being able to fund marketing, right? I mean, we keep talking about marketing, but that's the thing that a lot of us couldn't individually afford. And it's the thing that the system really can provide for us. And then the cohesive pipeline to get students to the right school and into the right programs. I think the thing for students that has been a huge benefit that we've seen is that they click on an ad and then they are connected with a SUNY coach, right, for admissions. And we've never, they've always, if they happen to find Alfred, then our admissions staff works with them and they've been great. But within minutes, they're getting that phone call and that connection, not in a super intrusive way like some of the other schools. But they have that person that they now can tap into that can help them get through that admissions process successfully and then become an enrolled student, right? And sometimes, like, we as a system have not been able to offer that to our students. So for us, that's been huge, is knowing that students have that connection very quickly after they show interest in a program. And then the way that the coaches and the coordinators at system work with our campus staff in admissions and financial aid and records has been phenomenal. So we've really been able to lean on the SUNY system staff and the coaches and the coordinators to help our students navigate our own really unique, sometimes really cumbersome systems and processes, right? So that's been great for students, that they have that resource and they have that person that they can really tap into that will help them. But as far as staff on our campus at Alfred too, it's open conversations that we've been meaning to have for years, but just never happened, right? Or that we've started and then they've kind of stopped, or now it's really made us think about the student experience in a different way. And the changes that we're making for SUNY Online in process are actually benefiting all of our students across the institution. So it's been a good thing for all students, not just our degrees at scale students.
Thank you, Danielle. Let me give a plug for one program attribute that may be lost in this, and I'll say it quickly. Part of the macro program design is it concerns the selection of programs. And so if you think about a student who is interested in healthcare, administration, management, leadership, they can begin with Ryan, transfer and get a bachelor's from Danyelle, and go on to Empire State and get an MBA in healthcare administration, or to Oswego. So we call that the thematic pathways, not to be concerned or confused with the other ways we use pathways within SUNY. Same with the accounting program at Monroe. Then we have a bachelor's degree you can go to, and then an MBA, straight up, if you will, MBA. Not, go ahead, Terry.
No, I want to piggyback on what you're saying, because I think I was going to mention this is, to me, the best example of a system approach to anything SUNY has done in a long, long time. We as the online learning people have always tried to work together, but it's been as best we can. But I think that pathway is really important for our students and the coaches, but also coming back to MCC, the 3 degrees are chosen. One of the math has not been successful yet. And we haven't really found the right pathway. And it's not just because we haven't found the right pathway at our schools, it's made us question, and we are still questioning, what does math become? How do we market it? How is it designed, and where does it lead students? Because generically, I was a math major, hey, it can go anywhere. But if a student comes and says, I want to become this, do they always think of starting here? And that's actually had us really question that and think about it. And we're still thinking about that one because I think that's important. And the flip side, like Ryan's mentioning, a program that didn't have many students, Homeland Security just got chosen, and we think this is going to be the avenue for a whole bunch of new students. But I think it allows us to really think beyond the way we've always done it in a particular degree and say, where are these students? Why are they coming to us? And where do they think they want to go? I think that's really important for our students. And I just love that they can go from our campus to another campus as seamlessly as we can make it. And hopefully we'll make it more seamless as the years go on.
Yeah. And don't let me mislead anyone. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Articulation transfer agreements are part and parcel of what has been going on in SUNY and beyond SUNY forever. It's just, we've done it, if you will, in a purposeful way to serve and support these programs. So we've asked Danyelle and Ryan and Terry to think about one of my favorite questions, right? If you knew then what you know now, what would you have done differently? That's offered, asked of them in a spirit to offer all of you sort of insight and reflection and maybe some advice and guidance. But before we ask them to speak to that, let me make sure that you all know you have permission and are asked to jump in. Does anyone want to share anything right now, please? Any thoughts or questions that you like what you've heard, or you want to hear more, or clarification, anything? I will pause for an uncomfortable 5 or so seconds.
I mean, I'll always speak up, Chuck, you know that.
Thank you, Megan.
And so does the rest of the group, right? No, I really appreciate this. And I think really, looking to hear their answer to number 4. But it's something for those campuses that are not involved and want to be involved, right? It's like, what are the things right now that we need to be doing? Whether we have the programs, don't have the programs, what opportunities do we have as other campuses that we can say, this is an opportunity for us, but before we get here, we need to be doing this. So, interested in hearing that as well, because I think that's what a lot of the campuses are wondering, if we're not selected because we put programs forward and haven't been selected with no feedback into, you were not selected because of X, Y, and Z, that information would be helpful.
Right. And what Megan's referring to is there was sort of a selection process that went on just as I was coming on board. And then there was a legitimate, if you will, or formal program nomination process. And we outlined about 9 academic program areas that we were interested in that we felt filled gaps and our portfolio was a little STEM leaning. And that's good, right? In many ways, but we needed kind of a liberal arts degree, right? A way for people who were not fully immersed in STEM to move forward with their academics in the career. And we thought we'd get a good solid couple dozen or 3 dozen proposals, and we got 149 proposals. And then people changed at the highest levels of SUNY and so on and so forth. And we were only able to onboard 5 associate level programs during a second round. So there will be, we believe and hope and expect, additional programming. But thank you, Megan, for sharing that. We can talk more about that. Maybe today's the time, maybe not. Let's see if we can come back to it. But obviously it wasn't meant to create an exclusive club, but really to be more laser, that goes without saying perhaps, but to be laser-like, right, in that competitive marketplace. And then to take those learnings, the kinds of things you've heard from Danyelle, Ryan, and Terry, and expand that out. And we are thinking of that all the time now. How do we expand out? So thank you for that. And Susan, may I put you on the spot, if you agree, to respond to Dr. Rogers' question about the coaching model? Can you do that in a minute? An elevator pitch for it so we can get.
Absolutely.
Is that fair? All right.
Okay, so
Introduce yourself as you do that.
hi, I'm Susan Warner. I am SUNY Online's lead success coordinator, and I have been in the past working with, had the privilege of working with Alfred students and SUNY Oswego students. So the coaches. So the role of the coaches is the coaches work with students from the moment they submit their application all the way to graduation. So, and our goal is to create that relationship with that student so that we can be their go-to person for all things related to their educational experience. So we partner with the campus And we fully recognize that all the time that the students are the campus's students, right? So we're making sure that that student feels very connected to the campus resources, that they will become a very committed alumni to that campus, right? Then we're working with the student, helping them complete the application, get their admissions decision in a very timely manner. And I should say, if a student is not admitted to their first program of choice, we will work with that student to get them into a program that better fits their needs.
Even if it's outside the degrees at scale.
Yeah,
tent.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we are in charge of their onboarding and their orienting them to their program, to their campus. We partner again very closely with each campus as we're doing that. And then we work with them throughout the program. We're very involved in early alert systems, and currently we're using Starfish on most campuses. And we're responding to flags with the students. We're also trying to partner with faculty and help faculty in whatever way they want with outreaches to students. So we're really all about getting that student in, getting them admitted, helping them to successfully onboard to the program and to have success throughout the program. Some of our coaches actually in the community colleges even do advising and are the student's primary advisor. In our completion programs, we tend to partner with the campus advisor and help make sure that the students are getting registered and need everything that they need, that they have everything they need in order to be successful. So we're love this job because it's all about that connection with the student. And
Dave and I are familiar with the MPA program at Maxwell, a renowned faculty, international student population. And every one of the students that who you meet who talk about it, they all attribute a woman who was in that role, not by that name, but in that role for the MPA program. And they'll say, that's who got us through. That's who we went to. That's who helped me. When I had that problem or this problem, that's who helped me. So thank you for that, Susan. Dave, we can
thank
follow
you
up
all
with
for the
you
work you're doing.
more if you'd like us to. Okay, just give a shout. So Aaron, you're better at this than me. Seconds, minutes left. Sort of the topmost reflection. Terry, Ryan, Danyelle, what would you have done differently? Run? No, don't say.
I'll be honest, I didn't know how to answer this because there were so many unknowns. We didn't know anything. I mean, we didn't know the price model. We're almost there. We didn't know what was expected. We didn't know anything. So the main thing was make sure your departments, to Megan's question, make sure the department's all on board. Make sure people are ready to go because it is a lot of work. And if they're not, that's a challenge. I think a benefit to us is for those that aren't on board, we have a whole group that are doing it. So it's sort of that also angle. If we're in, we're in. And by the way, if we can't offer this particular course, I know Finger Lakes will, and they'll take our students for that one course. So that sometimes encourages things on our campus. But make sure people are all in up front and ready to go, because once they say go, you've got like weeks, months maybe to have things ready to go. And I mean, everybody, your tech people and all those people.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. Ryan?
Yeah, the one thing that it took me a while, I look at our enrollment reports every week for the institution. I thought everyone did that, but not everyone does that. I just assumed that everyone did because, I don't know, to me, it's important, right? We want to keep the lights on. We want to keep the classrooms heated, so we have to have students. And one thing that became apparent to me about halfway through this was that many of the folks that I was talking to didn't necessarily prioritize this work because they didn't understand the impact that it was having on the bottom line of the institution. And when you're talking, online learning used to be about 25% of our general FTE at the institution. And at this point, it's pretty darn close to 50%. Obviously the pandemic plays a role in that, but I imagine we're going to settle somewhere in the 40 to 45% range. When you share that information with folks, it makes it a lot easier for them to understand the impact that this is having. You know, the students at this institution just aren't those students who you see walking down the hall who are at the vending machine or in the cafeteria. The students at this institution are also all of those out there, and all of those out there allow us to do what we do in this building in a better way, because we have more revenue, we have the ability to provide them with better services. And sometimes I don't know that everyone makes that connection. And so to me, I would have made that connection very, very early with the group of folks who were required to work on this frequently. And it might not have been through an enrollment report, but something along the lines of, hey, listen, if we get 300 students, here's the percentage of our current amount of students that equals, and think about the money that that is bringing into the institution and how important it is that we do this successfully. And to be honest, partnering with SUNY is great in the sense that it brings accountability, because you say, well, I'm not putting that instructor into SUNY, right? I'm not going to let that happen there because it's under too much of a microscope and it's too important to this institution. And so I think that those are some of the lessons that I think I would have applied earlier, because I didn't understand the way that all of the various constituent people who needed to come together to work on this project looked at our institution as a whole.
Thank you, Ryan. Danielle, our penultimate comment, and then
I'll be super quick. So
Aaron to close us out.
Completely agree with Terry and Ryan. I think the thing that I would have done is connected and learned more about financial aid, right? And how, when we're dealing with non-traditional students who want to start and stop, they want to go part of semester, like really understanding it's such a messy process, but taking the time to really understand financial aid and how different decisions that students make impact their aid.
Very good. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everyone. Aaron?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you to everyone, to our panelists and to the participants who came to learn more. If you do have, more questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. We'd be happy to direct you to the right folks. And I know our panelists are always willing to talk about their experience. So I'm just going to tell you that you can reach out to them because I know that they're responsive and they don't say no. We've already established that at the beginning. So appreciate you all and encourage you to take a look at the recap and recordings from National Distance Learning Week. I put a bit.ly there in the chat for you, and feedback on our survey is always appreciated. So I am going to stop the recording, and we do have another session at 1 o'clock. If you want to remain in the room, we'll leave it open for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.